Well, hello, writers. Our final day on our tribute essays, and we should be bringing these bad girls to a close, ready to submit tonight so we can grade them to close out our trimester. So, a showcase of your best skills: action, description, sentence fluency, voice, and then special techniques like figurative language, writer's tricks. So, today to start, I want to go over the rubric. So, we always have in mind what we're aiming for and what else we need to do to bring this to life to get the best score possible. We'll look at an example essay. We'll kind of evaluate how would this writer do on the rubric. And then I will give you some drafting, some revising time. Really want you to read it back to yourself from top to bottom, okay? And then just some time for you to spell check, add a title, make sure things flow. And then I'd love for you to have some writers' chats to share your piece today, sharing your story with a podmate, with somebody in your crew, and just giving each other some feedback. And I've noticed that kids, they often do this really well because, they're honest and they can kind of prompt or suggest things. Oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, it made sense in my mind, but I see that wouldn't be clear to you. I'll add that little detail in, okay? So I want to have you open up your narrative and go ahead and do that. And then come right back here. We're going to scroll to the bottom and look at the rubric together. So make sure you've done that. Teachers, you can pause so kids can pull up their piece. All right. So this thing is 60 points. That's a lot. Okay. It's kind of like your writing exam portion for English language arts. At the end, you'll have like a short little reading exam, but this is the writing, the big shebang. So 10 points on ideas. Showing versus telling, making your story come to life. We've worked hard on being storytellers, not summarizing. Like, I went golfing with Grandpa. I made a cool shot. The end. Okay. But tell your story. What's going on in your head, right? How did it feel taking that swing, making contact with that golf ball? What sounds did you hear? What are some things your grandpa said, like the dialogue? All a great action description that makes it real. So that's 10 points if you've done really well. If it's fuzzy and unclear, you're going to get 7. And if you just summarized, just told me, not showed me, you're going to be down into the not yet category, okay? Word choice. Use the language arts help sheets located on the bottom of our Google Classroom. They're always there for you. Okay, so language arts help sheets, we did those with your animal anecdote. You will find amazing verb choices, delicious adjectives to use. You need character traits for your person. Go ahead and do that there. So these are some ideas to have those fireball word choices for your piece. Okay, is your piece organized, right? We are far beyond me telling you how many sentences it has to be, but you need a before, a during, and after a closing. So this should be separated into paragraphs. Some people do 3, some people do 5, some people do 7 because they have a couple before paragraphs leading up to it. You're in control of this piece, but it does need to be organized into a kind of a before, during, and after. The paragraph count is up to you. You might have a couple different parts to your story. But I don't want just one big, massive block of writing. And so you'll notice our student writer today, how he organized his. Voice, there's some feeling. This whole thing was meant to pay tribute and respect. And some people, if this person is still in your life, they've shared their piece with this person as an honor. And that's really cool. That's one of the great things about writing is that it's meant to uplift and to share our feelings. So you have meaning is shown through literary devices like similes, like metaphors. Maybe you've used some inner thought, what you were thinking in your piece. Maybe you've got grandpa's voice, your cousin's voice, dialogue going on in there. Maybe you've tried out some repetition or ballooning, some of those writing tricks. That's voice. That's the magic, the flavor. All year we've worked on fluency. Your writing, your sentences begin in different ways. Not just the, he, I, but you've got the ing, the ly, double adjective opener, maybe an aubis. Okay, we talked about that yesterday. You can visit those slides. And then finally, you've spell checked. You've started your sentences with capital letters. You've got commas. You have end marks in there. It looks clean and polished. You've done a read to edit small things. So 60 points. Let's go ahead and turn to our final example essay. And so teachers, you can just make sure students kind of close their screens a bit so they can focus on our final example, and we will begin. This one's about golf, and the student writer's writing about his grandfather. I think you could have a bit stronger lead, but it gets better from here. My grandpa was in the military for 4 years and served in the Navy. He was also an avid Chicago Cubs fan, and we go to a game together every year. But most importantly, he loved golf. Every Sunday, he and I would go golfing into lunch. It would be the best part of the weekend. He had golf clubs from the 1920s, and I'd always make fun of him for it. Although he had horrendous clubs, he still managed to hit the ball and smile through every hole. So that's organized into just the intro. Now we're getting into the befores part of the story. It was early, hot, steaming Sunday morning, and I woke up as excited as ever to go golfing with my grandpa. It's about 8 o'clock, and Grandpa pulled into the driveway. I placed my clubs in the hood of the car, and we headed to Evergreen Golf Course. It was about a 35-minute drive, but it didn't matter because it was always fun just to be with Grandpa. We'd talk about the PGA, and he'd always ask me about school, and every time it'd be the same answer: good but boring. Once we arrived at our destination, we entered the clubhouse, a giant bowl of excitement. And I got my favorite drink, root beer, and he got the usual lemonade. We grabbed a scorecard, and we headed to the golf cart. My body was trembling with excitement and energy as we approached the first hole, a long, straight par 4. Grandpa always shot first, so he got out his driver, a brown piece of junk, and got on the tee box. He took a couple practice swings, and he was ready to go. Placing the ball on the tee, his heart was racing with anxiety. He shot first, but his first shot was a bust, a 20-yard bobble. But he didn't care. He just laughed because we were just out to have fun. My shot wasn't much better than his, but he let me shoot again because he's a nice guy. Steadying myself, I drew my club back and released. It was a nice, straight shot that was an easy chip onto the green. Passing in a joyful blur, I couldn't believe we'd arrived at the 8th hole. Only one more hole to the dreaded pond, I thought. My score wasn't looking awesome, but it didn't matter. I always ruined it trying to get over the stupid pond. But this time was different. My grandpa said he would buy me a new sleeve of golf balls, any kind I wanted. Gritting my teeth, I was determined to get it over that pond. Ignoring my gnawing self-doubt, I strode to the tee box, hoping I wouldn't ruin my best score yet. Plucking out my Callaway 8-iron, I placed my ball onto the ground. Taking a deep breath, I shifted into position. I brought the club back swiftly and let her rip. Whack! I smacked the ball perfectly, sending it roaring. When I made that satisfying contact, I knew this was the shot that was going to break my streak of failure. I would conquer the pond, sailing low and dropping from the air. Boom! The ball hit the ground with a little bounce of triumph. Yes! Yes! I shouted with a jolt of joy. Good job, buddy! Grandpa exclaimed with a clap. I was so psyched to finally get it over and played the best round of golf. It was only made better by the post-game chili dogs at G&L with Grandpa and that new sleeve of golf balls I had earned. As I reflect back on that day, I realized that he taught me to work hard, and it'll pay off, and not to take things for granted. If I could just be smart and fun as him someday, it would be a great life. Last year, my grandpa died of cancer at the age of 86, and I would do anything to go golfing with him one last time. He taught me to love golf, but most importantly, to be a steady and focused person, and for that, I am forever grateful. So as we think about this writer, everything perfect? No, but does he have a lot of voice and a lot of feeling? Sure does. There's some different parts that I could really connect with, like that part where he made contact with the ball, and then how he zoomed in on the ball sailing low and having that triumphant little bounce because he finally made it over the pond. So that's action. That's show versus tell. That's storytelling, not just summarizing. Like, I hit the shot, I made it, right? He tells a story of doing that. That's the part he really zooms in on, the heart, which I like. It's organized. He's got the intro, kind of the before, the during, the big shot, and then the afterwards, Janelle, new sleeve of golf balls, and then, of course, his conclusion reflecting on why this experience mattered. I saw a lot of great word choices. I mean, we can even look back, and he tried not to just use these boring rice cake words in here, but he was specific. Like, I know Grandpa had a root beer or a lemonade. The kid had a root beer. Callaway, using a proper noun. He's got some sentence fluency, like steadying myself, comma, passing in a joyful blur, comma. So nice participial phrases in there. Gritting my teeth, ignoring the gnawing self-doubt. So some inner thought. There's some good voice in there. Plucking out the Callaway. I see a complex sentence here. Onomatopoeia, the thwack, which is cool. Action, the little bounce of triumph. Sailing low, dropping, shouting, exclaiming, clap. So some being psyched. So he's got some good word choices in there. I'd probably score him high in that place. And then being organized into those paragraphs, having some feeling and heart. The sentences flow. Conventions, pretty good job with capitalizing. I mean, just look at your word choice. He talked about putting the golf clubs in the hood of the car, which kind of seems impossible, maybe trunk. But nice work with spell checking throughout. So that's your work right now to bring this thing to a close. if you haven't already. Or if you are done, I want you to just read through, spell check, change out word choice, make things flow. Maybe you could start a sentence with an ly or an ing or double adjective if it's the. So notice, do you have a string of sentences that keep starting with I over and over? So I want to pause and just give you some time again with your piece. Last day, should be getting sick of it because you invested a lot. And then come back and we're going to do some writers' chats. Okay. We're going to prepare our paper for submission, okay? So make sure that it's organized into different paragraphs and that you've used Times New Roman size 12. You've double spaced it, so double spacing, okay? So you want to make sure that under format, you can look at line spacing and you choose double. And there's also a little icon up here in your toolbar, double spacing right here, double, okay? That makes it longer, but it also makes it easier to read your piece. So the example essays, these are double spaced. And then just tab to start a new paragraph. Okay, so that looks really nice. All right, what else on our checklist? Make sure you've spell checked, you've taken care of any red squiggly lines. Highlight your writing tricks. If you use repetition, I made the shot, that would change everything. If you use repetition, if you use a metaphor or a simile in there, highlight those, show off. The highlighting for you is a check that, hey, you've done it, but it's also screams in our faces like, look at this, notice this, to sort of celebrate. And we want to give you the most amount of points possible, okay? Underline your opening sentence structures. If you start with an aubis, like as I ready myself, or ignoring the gnawing self-doubt, the participial phrase, the ing, or maybe you start with an ly word, like enthusiastically, joyfully, underline those. That just shows off to us that you've got it, and to you also that you've done it, okay? So teachers, pause, give kids a few moments to look through everything, and then we're going to close with some writers' chats. So come back when you're ready. All right, so feedback. I have helped a colleague with a book that was published, and so giving feedback is a real-world writing task. That's what we do, and often, I share things with other people before I send them out for submission for different purposes. So find a colleague in class that you trust, you feel comfortable with. We should be there by now, all year together, but you're going to follow these conversation points. So join together, and I want you to have a little chat before you even read each other's work, okay? So tell them this. As a storyteller, you know what? I worked hard on using what? What did you work hard on doing? What was your goal? I really wanted to bring together, show off my grandpa's enthusiasm. So I did that through dialogue, the things he would say that were chipper and upbeat and sort of little words of encouragement. And then second, the part I like best in my writing is, I like this action scene when I what? So both of you share what you did really well as a storyteller, what you worked hard on. Read each other's pieces. So click the share button so they have access, read it. And then when you're done, talk about what you read. Ask them, what part of my story really stuck with you and why? And then what part is unclear and needs more development? What could I do? Any suggestions or ideas? So be kind, but be honest. Your goal is to support and help and further this person's writing so they can achieve the best grade possible in our very last piece we've done in 7th grade. Okay, so we really look forward to these. I love these. These are meaningful pieces. They matter. I enjoy reading them. And then also share your story with somebody else. If you want to share it with the person that you wrote it for or about, do that. So I recommend that as well. Okay, so enjoy, and I'll meet you back here